Edmonds, and I'll let her do the introduction. She is local, she's here in Medina, she practices law and does all kinds of cool things. For whatever your needs may be. So it's a privilege to have Marie here today in our midst and sharing her thoughts on this particular topic. So, and then I think Marie will open up for them to introduce themselves. Make sure you all take her card. If you have any questions later, you could, ask her if it's okay with you.
It is.
Thank you.
So I'm Marie Edmonds. I'm a local estate planning and elder law attorney. So what my practice consists, I practice with Ashley Sorgen, also in Medina, we're a small firm. So what my practice consists of is helping people put together their estate plan, wills, powers of attorney, healthcare documents, trusts when appropriate. And then the elder law piece is that as well, but also to help people if we're trying to protect some assets in case you need to make a Medicaid application, to assist with Medicaid applications. If you're a veteran, to help you get positioned where you could go to the veterans office and make a aid attendance application. So that's kind of the area of the law that we deal with exclusively. I don't do divorces, I don't do traffic tickets, I don't do any of that, but I do the estate planning end of things. So the topic I was going to talk about today, and feel free to interrupt me or at the end ask questions about anything in the estate planning area, is financial elder abuse. So I'm sure none of us ever think that we're going to be the subject of elder abuse, but sometimes, I know I hear about it in my practice, but sometimes, because we have our family and our friends to help us, but there are times when all of a sudden something happens and you think, how did that happen? So I think maybe what I'll start with is, what does elder abuse look like, financial elder abuse? And then what are the things you should do to protect yourself or to hopefully prevent that from happening? So I look at this as elder abuse really having kind of three main categories. Financial exploitation, criminal fraud, and caregiver abuse. So financial exploitation is when someone takes advantage of an elderly person, their confusion. So maybe they get you to sign up for something that you don't realize what the consequences are of that signing up for. Investing in something that has all these hidden fees and you didn't know about it because they kind of confused you, it was too overwhelming, so you just kind of take their word for it. That is not unusual, by the way, I can tell you that. Criminal fraud is when we're talking about con artists, tax schemes. I can tell you one thing with reference to the IRS, for example. IRS does not call you, does not text you. So if you get a text or a call from the IRS, that's not the IRS. Hang up, they do not communicate with you that way. But once again, when we hear IRS, we kind of get spooked. And one of the things they're probably going to try to ask you is like, what's your social security number? No. You don't want to give that information out. Or somebody calls you and has some investment they want you to make, which is usually a mistake. And I know we've heard in the past, and I know I've had clients where they get phone calls from someone and they say they're like, it's your grandson, and he's in Florida and he needs money, but he doesn't have any money. Can you please get me some money? And I've had clients who've lost tens of thousands of dollars because they thought that was their grandson. So no, I mean, it's despicable. I don't know how else to say it. So just those are the kind of things I think you need to be very, very careful of. So the criminal fraud, the last thing is a caregiver abuse. That's probably more rare, but that's some things that I see as well. So, you include, you trust the people that care for you, we trust the people that come in and help you, but I think we just have to be wary that we choose the right person if it's not a family member, and even if it is, we choose the right person, and that maybe we have some safeguards just to make sure you're not gonna be one of those people that all of a sudden, some of your money is lost. And how those people get into positions sometimes to defraud you is by giving someone a power of attorney, and I'll go back to powers of attorney in a minute, name them as a trustee on your trust, or add their name to an account where they have access to that. So those are pretty typical ways that I think that sometimes we can be taken advantage of where we don't even see it coming. So certainly, what could you do to prevent some of that stuff? If you have an attorney or a financial advisor, I would say just listen to their advice about those kind of things. You know, I've been doing this for 40 some years, and that's what I know. And so I've seen the best of us and the worst of us. So I would just say, just be cautious. You know, if someone is very anxious for you to change your power of attorney to them, you know, you have to wonder why. You know, when that's my client, I never have my client and their son or daughter sit in together if we're changing things to that son or daughter. Because I need to talk to you personally without anybody else there. I don't want someone kind of twisting your arm. And maybe you don't realize someone's twisting your arm. You know, we hear a lot, and I ask a lot of questions. So sometimes I have people who say, oh, you know, you're kind of nosy. And I said, well, if you don't tell me those things, I can't help you. I can't give you the best advice if you don't tell me everything. So I think, you know, to be careful who you give a power of attorney to. Powers of attorney are very, very powerful documents. Typically, if there are no restrictions on it, it literally gives whoever you've named the power to do anything you can do. So that means go into your bank accounts. That means call and get information about your IRAs. So once again, that may be fine, but just be very wary. If you're doing that, you know, a couple safeguards you could do is you could have either more than one person have to sign for something. So it's not just the person you're giving it to, but someone else as well. Put a limit on what transactions you may let them do without your consent, a dollar amount per chance. Or if you're making some large gift, once again, you know what you're doing, but maybe just to make sure no one's twisting your arm, make sure that that's happening, that someone else has to sign for that with you. So powers of attorney are very powerful documents. You can limit what they do. You can limit if it's one person or more than one person. You can also prescribe how you can also say, I only want this to be in effect when I can't make decisions myself. Sometimes that's a little harder, and if that's the case, then you can put in, well, how does someone know that I'm not able to make those decisions myself? So my suggestion would be, is what I do when I create trust as well, is if we're ever having a determination of incapacity, make sure that your attending physician, your primary doctor, is in on that determination, because he or she probably knows you best. So that would be what my suggestion would be. Another option for you, if you want to make sure someone can help you with your finances, but you're just a little concerned, or you don't have a close family member to do that for you, or if you do, you're not real sure that that's the right person. There's a procedure through the court. It's not a guardianship where you have to be declared incompetent. It's called a conservatorship, where you actually can name who you want to handle your money for you, kind of like a power of attorney, but they have to report to the court. So that's a safeguard. You know, if you don't want to go through the court procedure, you can also have your power of attorney set up so they have to give you or someone else an accounting every so often. You have a question?
Are you talking about a trust or a will, or you can do it in either one?
I'm sorry?
Is this a trust or a will that you're talking about?
Well, okay, so a trust. So a will is a document that only is effective when you die. So that's where you name who's going to handle things when you're gone. How do you want your property distributed? So that's an executor. A trust is where you leave a set of instructions on what you want to see happen with your money should you not be able to handle it yourself or upon your death. And the person in charge is called a trustee. Once again, you can have one trustee, more than one trustee, and typically those work very well if you go through the process of making sure your assets are titled in your trust. So your trustee can only handle things that are titled in your trust. An agent under a power of attorney can only handle things that are in your name. So sometimes those are two different things. For example, if you have an IRA or retirement account, that's always in your name, never in a trust name. If we change the title to an IRA into the trust, it triggers all the taxes. Well, we don't want that. So typically that's in the trust, that's not in the trust, it's in your name, and your agent under a power of attorney can access that depending on what authority you give him or her. Another thing with a trust you can do, if you're, once again, kind of concerned about what authority you want to even give your trustee, you can name what's called a trust protector. who's usually an independent person. I serve as trust protector quite often, and it would be for certain transactions, they have to get the trust protector's approval. So the trustee is not free to do everything on his or her own. So, I mean, that's one alternative. Like I say, powers of attorney, kind of risky, but you can prevent that. Let me see, what else do I? So I think the most important thing that I see in my practice is you being very honest about who you choose as your agent under a power of attorney. You know, we all trust our family, but sometimes we have to keep our eyes open to know, who do you trust the most? Do we need to have a safeguard, maybe more than one person? I can tell you, once again, having done this for many years, if you're talking about naming children make assumptions. They always assume that you're gonna name oldest and the next and the next. That doesn't always make sense for any number of reasons. It may be that your oldest child isn't local, which they don't have to be, but it may also be that your oldest child isn't really the financial person. Maybe one of your other children is better suited to that. Who you name as to handle your finances does not have to be the same person that you name for your healthcare decisions. So once again, keep that in mind. Powers of attorney sometimes are a little unwieldy when we name more than one person, but usually if we're doing that, we have a reason for doing that. You know, we just wanna make sure that your wishes are carried out and that your money is being used to take care of you and not somehow going somewhere else. Another thing I think to be wary of is adding someone's name to an account of yours. So someone says, well, I wanna help you with your finances, so why don't you just add me as a co-owner on your account? I would never do that. The reason is, if you add someone as a co-owner, they now have as much right to that money as you do. So they could go into the bank without telling you anything and take it all out. Yes?
Is that what they call a financial account? Power of attorney?
Financial power of attorney.
And it is a health.
A financial power of attorney is different than a healthcare power of attorney. So financial power of attorney is when you name one or more people to handle your finances for you if you just don't want to do it, or if you are unable to do it, and that's only dealing with finances. That has nothing to do with your healthcare. Healthcare power of attorney is where you name some, and it's interesting because your financial power of attorney can be effective right now if you want it to be, just so someone can help you, even though you're mentally fine and you can do it yourself. Healthcare power of attorney is different. When you name a healthcare agent, they're the person or persons who will make medical decisions for you when you are no longer able to make them yourself. So they can't act while you're still competent. They can't make decisions for you. The doctor looks just to you. So, and sometimes it's easier with healthcare to have more than one person, or 2 out of 3. But you know, that's not an unusual thing to do. A little more cumbersome when it's financial, but if we're doing more than one financially, it's probably because we've got some worries, or we're just want to make sure that things are in place.
So that would be
Agents, yes. Mm-hmm.
You have co-ones for financial and co-ones for.
Yes, yes.
Because they both have to agree.
Exactly. So once again, naming someone as a co-owner on your account, I just wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't do that. You know, if you want to have somebody, once again, help you pay your bills, for example, you're better off if you give them a power of attorney, and if you want them to have that authority, for example, only over your checking account, not any of your other investments, you can give a limited power of attorney. You're my agent to handle the money in my checking account, and then you can kind of control what they have access to and how much money. So if you, what?
That could be co.
And that could be co, exactly. But once again, I think that's safer than, for example, adding someone on your checking account with you.
Would that be like a limited power?
It's like a limited power of attorney, exactly. And you can do the same thing with a trust. You know, if you want to be the trustee, but you want someone to help you, once again, pay bills. If your checking account is owned by your trust, you can give your trustee the limited authority to access that account only. So then, as you know, that may be the account where your Social Security and your pension goes in, and then that's where you pay your bills. But you've got your investment account somewhere else. You know, that's great, because you could always take money and put it into this account, but now you've limited what someone has access to by what account you choose to give them access to. And that's the safest thing to do. you know, but we, like I say, we never think we're gonna be the one who, you know, has somebody who will take advantage of us, you know, but sometimes we just do, whether that's someone you know, someone you don't know, you know, that stuff's out there all the time. I know, so we've got information here, among other things, about, which I know Laura's probably talked to, about, you know, the scam alerts, all the scams that there are, and that's handled by the prosecutor's office who's done a wonderful job at getting money back from people. You know, so, once again, if somebody calls you and says, you know, there's a problem with your Amazon account, you better call me, so you can access that. Don't do that. Oh, and the Turnpike's a famous one, I do too. You know, a message from the Turnpike that you owe tolls and they're gonna, you know, come after you. They don't operate that way. So I would say just delete all those. Phone call from the IRS, they do not communicate with you that way. So.
If you have a smartphone, there is that delete and report junk.
Yes,
You can
exactly.
do that.
Exactly. But you know, you can be flooded with that stuff, no matter what you do. So I think it's just a matter of understanding there's different ways where we can be taken advantage of, whether it's, you know, financially, whether it's the crime, the whole con artist thing, you know, or by a caregiver. We hope that never happens, but you know, sometimes you don't have family members that are caring for you. Maybe you have a company or a friend or an acquaintance that comes in. You know, we hire those people with the best of intentions. I would say that's great, and that's what you should do, and they may be very loving, but just be careful. Just be careful what access you give them to your finances, to passwords, to any of that stuff. They should never have any reason to ask you for that.
Those should always be protected, for
Yes,
sure.
yes.
And always, I would say, find, you know, agencies, if you're looking for home care, that can have their caregivers insured and bonded and background checked. Because often people think we can pay less by getting somebody, a
Yes.
friend of a friend's. And that's when things happen. Because this friend of a friend, you know, I mean, after some time, it's a relationship. Just like you screen a facility, like for example, Melanie and all, Life Care Center, you know, they're all state approved, licensed, scrutinized, so less things, the standards put in place. Right at Home is a franchise, so there's standards for screening people that are put in place. So those are your safe bet, rather than if a friend says, you know, I know a friend, you know, she can take care of people in her home. You know, you're opening the door for something that may not be the best. So be aware of how quickly things can go wrong. And explore, get names of resources. You know, all of us are here. You know, the county office is here to give you resources, safe resources,
Right.
I would say anytime.
Yeah, another question back there?
Yeah, if you make a financial power of attorney, say, it's your nephew, yours godfather, your daughter and son live in California. And the son fights it, the trust would take it to court, and what would happen?
You can do that, you definitely can do that, yeah.
No, I'm saying if I do that, the son, I'll just bad example, but he fights the power of attorney being the nephew, then you're not. Say he passed away, he wants to challenge the power of attorney, that is his cousin. Would he take that to court for the trust?
He would, but yes. First of all, powers of attorney are effective while you're living. The minute you die, that person has no more authority by law. You know, once again, but that's not the case if you die and they're a joint owner. So, you know, so someone's handling an estate, let's say this is your son, and your nephew's here, your son's in California, and your nephew's, there's some shenanigans going on with the power of attorney, and you pass away. Your son, through the probate court, can still go against that nephew if they knew that there was some shenanigans going on while you were living.
Okay.
So that's not impossible. Yes.
Once you pass away,
All their authorities-
It'll go to your daughter and son.
Exactly, and all your authorities
So
gone,
that's-
all their authorities.
That's more or less the will taken over.
Yes, exactly. So your will, controls anything when you die that's in your name alone. If you have a co-owner, or you have a beneficiary named, or it's owned by a trust, your will does not control that. So you wanna look at what your will says, number one, and how have you got your assets set up? So, for example, I have 3 children. My will says everything goes to the 3 of them. If I set up my bank account where it's payable on death to just one of my children, that belongs to her, no matter what my will says, because I set it up to do that. If you've got beneficiaries, same kind of, what your payable on death is. Any beneficiaries, it goes to those people, no matter what your will says. So we always want to look at, what do you want to see happen? What does your will or trust say? And how have you got your assets set up? Sometimes those are very different.
So on passing, beneficiary, say, I'm gonna give it over to the daughter, and then I'll distribute it with her brother, right?
Well,
You just agree verbally with them.
for sure. I mean, if you have a co-owner or a beneficiary, legally, that money belongs to that person. Even though your intention might be, well, I know she'll share it with her brothers. I know she will. Don't count on that. The best of all worlds, then it does not
So
always happen.
you don't want her to be a co-owner then?
You don't want her to be a co-owner, because then she can, well, 2 things. She can take it out while you're living, number one, and co-owner is the same thing. Upon your death, it all belongs to her. So once again, even if your intentions are, well, she's gonna share it with her siblings, I know she will, I trust her, she says she will, she doesn't have to.
So-
Legally, she does not have to.
So you said that you want it equally spread between son and daughter. So would that be said in the trust or the will, how's that go?
Okay, if I wanted my accounts to go to all my children,
Yeah.
upon my death, I would do one of 2 things. I would either do payable on death to all 3 of my children, then they all get a third, or my trust would say, upon my death, I want all of my accounts to be distributed to my 3 children. And then the trustee makes sure that happens.
So the trust covers that, not the will?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The trust covers it if that account is titled in the trust. If the account is just in your name and your will says, I want everything to go to my 3 children, that's where it'll go. But if you've got just one person as a beneficiary name, that's where it'll go, no matter what your will says. We have the best of intentions by having someone help us, or, once again, you need help, with your checking account. You can give someone a limited power of attorney, your son or your daughter, they can help you with that, and then when you die, it'll go whatever your will says, or whatever your trust says.
You need both a will and a trust?
Well, if you have a trust, you always have a will as well. The will is a little different, however. So your trust is like your will in the sense that it says, here's where my assets are gonna go when I die. Your will says the same thing. If you have a trust, however, we always recommend that you have what's a will that's called a pour-over will. And all it says is, if upon my death, there's something that's not in my trust, I forgot to put it in, my will takes that and puts it into the trust. And then your trust takes over. Anything that when you die with a trust, none of those assets go through probate court. If you have a will, and there's anything that's in your name alone, that will go through probate court, and your will controls that. So if you have a will, you don't necessarily need a trust, but if you have a trust, we always recommend you have a will as well.
Can I bring up the irrevocable trust?
Pardon me? Yes.
There's
Irrevocable,
What's the thing?
Okay, so typically, from an estate planning perspective, most times if you're gonna have a trust, you have a revocable trust. And that means you have control over everything, it's still yours, you can make changes, you're in charge. Irrevocable trust is once you set it up, you can't change it. Once you put something in that trust, you can't get it out. Now and you are not the trustee. Whereas with revocable trust, you're the trustee, it's really you for all intents and purposes. Why would you do an irrevocable trust? A couple reasons. Number one, if there's some tax reason why you want to reduce the size of your estate and get some money out of there, so you set up an irrevocable trust for your children. For example, from an asset protection standpoint, Medicaid planning, when you apply for Medicaid, they look back 5 years to see if you've given anything away, and if you have, they'll penalize you. But if you want to give some assets away and hopefully make it through the 5 years and have that protected. You do that by means of an irrevocable trust. Because once you give it away, you can't get it back. So you have to be ready to do that, but that's a typical estate planning asset protection tool.
Reduce your taxes.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Think of? Like I said, I mean, the point of starting this conversation was just be wary of who you appoint, or be thoughtful, I guess. Be thoughtful about who you appoint to help you. Because sometimes, like I say, the best people we think are the best may not be. They may think they're the best, but maybe not. You know, somebody, is your son influenced very much by somebody? Maybe you don't want him to be the power of attorney. You just have to think it through, or put in safeguards.
One question. I read that a trust doesn't go through the courts, so it's not public knowledge. A trust is not public knowledge.
It is not.
So who has this information?
So you set up a trust, and the trustee is the one in charge, whoever you appoint as your successor. So you're in charge of it first. When you die, like naming an executor, but doesn't go through court, you name a successor trustee. They have access to everything. They have to give notice to the beneficiaries of what the trust says. The beneficiaries are allowed to have a copy, and the beneficiaries have to have an accounting. However, let's say that you have an estranged child and you don't plan to take care of him or her. You do not need to name them in your trust, and if you don't, they don't have access to anything, which is unlike the court system. When you have a will and you disinherit somebody, if you got 3 children and you're gonna leave everything to 2 of them, all 3 of them have to get notice of everything, because the law says not only do the beneficiaries have to get notice, the 2, but all your next of kin, who includes your 3, have to get notice. So then they're gonna know. Now, having said that, you can also, once again, set things up so that if you want things to go payable on death to the kids, then the only ones who know that are the ones you've named.
In a will.
In a will. Trust is, and so it's very much like a trust in that sense, in that whoever's the beneficiary, that's all who gets the information.
So you don't need to go probate then?
With a trust, you do not, anything that's owned by a trust, when you, I'm sorry?
Will, you don't have to go.
No, a will, you go through probate court with a will, depending on how your assets are titled. So if you have a will and everything's POD, we don't need your will.
Okay, so.
But if you have your house in your name alone, let's just say, and you die, then that's gonna go through probate court to get to whoever you've named as the beneficiaries.
So, the will go through probate court, even if it's payable on death.
No, payable on death does not.
With a will, so if you only have a will.
If you only have a will, the only thing the will control is something that's in your name alone when you die, without POD, no beneficiary, not owned by your trust, just your name. You have a bank account that's just in your name. You didn't name anybody as a co-owner, then when you die, that will go through probate court to get to whoever you want.
But you're gonna be like a trust that you name.
So a trust, when you retitle your assets into your trust name, and once again, it's a revocable trust, which means while you're living, that's just you, and then your trust says, well, when I die, I want my daughter to be the next trustee. So anything that's owned by my trust, she then steps in and has control of, but she has to pay it to whoever you've named as the beneficiary. So I would have all 3 of my children beneficiaries, she just makes sure it all gets there, but that does not go through probate court. So who is she accountable to? She's accountable to whoever the beneficiaries are. They have to see what you have in the trust, what your trust says. They have to know that.
How does a will different if it says payable death to beneficiaries?
A will has nothing to do with payable and death beneficiaries. Those are 2 separate things. Payable and death, so if you set up an account, payable and death to your 3 children, the bank will only talk to those children. Oh.
Now, is that in the trust or will?
It doesn't matter. If it's payable on death, they'll only talk to the beneficiaries. A trust, you don't need to do payable on death beneficiaries, because you're gonna have that account titled in your trust name, so that your trustee can step in and handle it. Payable on death, it's in your name when you die, but since you've got beneficiaries named, it doesn't go through probate court, so we don't need your will for that. They just go to the bank and say, I'm one of the beneficiaries on this account, look it up, and they'll give that person the money.
On trust.
Well, that's neither one. That's just an account. So I've got an account, my savings account, and I name my 3 children as beneficiaries. When I die, they can go to the bank and say, I'm one of the beneficiaries on mom's account. They'll look it up, yes you are, and they'll give her money.
You don't need a trust or a will for that.
You don't need a trust or a will for that.
What about your assets, your house, or whatever?
I'm sorry, what about, so if anything that you don't wanna do payable on death for, and there may be a reason, then if that's in your name alone when you die, your will control that, and your executor has to follow your directions in the will, report to the court on what he or she is doing, and then distribute it to whoever your beneficiaries are.
On a will.
In a will. With a trust, it's the same idea, except that the trustee steps in, gives everything to the beneficiaries, but they don't report to the court.
That which I hear, that's faster, that.
Yes, definitely
First,
faster,
it takes 6 months or something.
definitely.
The beneficiary takes precedence over everything.
Yes,
If you set up a trust.
yeah. If you name a beneficiary on an account, no matter what your will says, no matter what your trust says, if there's a beneficiary on an account, that's where it's gonna go.
I guess I better
So
ask.
that's why we kind of look at, well, what do you want to see happen, number one, and how do you have your assets set up? So once again, it may be, I want everything to go to my 3 children, but I forgot and named only one of my kids to be a beneficiary on something. That goes to her, everything else goes to all 3.
Now, in a will, you have your assets, your house, a car.
Right, right.
All goes to the payable on that. What if you forget the car in your will, you forget to put it down?
Well, it's in your name alone, so that's gotta go through probate court, or because no one can sell it. So if you forgot, so your car's in your name when you die. Then your will, whoever's named the executor would apply to become the executor, then once he or she is appointed, then she has the authority to sell that car or distribute it to whomever you said. But that's gotta go through probate court. Anything in your name alone goes through probate
But
court.
it's a lot easier with a trust because
Yes, because you've taken the work of retitling everything, either in the trust or made the trust the beneficiary. Then everything comes into one place when you die, and the trustee takes over and just distributes it as you've said.
I'm thinking of, say, somebody forgets they have their grandmother's diamond, and they forgot that, so, will, they assume that are getting one of the relatives. But with the trust, you had this, I'm just making this up.
Yeah.
This $50,000 diamond that
Right.
passed through the family, it was in the file. You go through and find that. But with will, all those things have to be listed, right?
Right, for sure, yep.
With a trust,
So with a trust, you usually make a provision that says, one of 2 things. Either I want all my personal property to be distributed this way, equally among my children. Or you say, I want that to happen, but that ring, you specifically say in your trust, I want that to go to, you name somebody. Then your trustee has to follow those directions on where specific things go if you've named it. Otherwise, the trustee's in charge of either dividing it up equally or selling things and give everybody money.
so, but in trust, you forgot you had this ring in.
That's okay, because usually when we do a trust, we had you sign something that very generically puts all those things that we don't have a title, we can change into your trust.
So you're really trusting your trustee.
You are, but remember, they have to report to the beneficiaries, but yes, you are. Yes,
3 children are beneficiaries and trustees in a revocable trust.
and irrevocable?
Revocable.
Revocable, yes.
1 is a bad actor.
Mm-hmm,
The trust stipulates that any liquidation of assets or the finances in the bank accounts, decisions on how to spend that or distribute it must be agreed upon by all 3 of the trustees, the beneficiaries. The bad actor removes funds from the accounts for personal use and makes literal and verbal threats to the other 2 trustees. None of the trustees get along. They're all siblings. How difficult is it to remove the bad actor from the trust by the other 2 trustees?
well, it also depends, it also depends, number 1, on what your trust says. Your trust may very well have some provision that says, here's how you remove a trustee.
Yeah, no.
No, okay, well then, then what you do is then you have to go to court, in the courtroom. Then.
So it's just the evidence of their actions. And then, from your experience, what are the
It gets so ugly.
Yeah, oh, it's already,
It's already ugly. Mhm.
So, you know, like, I don't know, on the 10 scale with 10 being, yeah, it's a cakewalk. How difficult and approximately how long might it take with the evidence of these actions available? How long could it take?
Oh, it could take more than a year.
What's the
And so once you get into court, now you're under the court's jurisdiction and you're under their schedule. So I'm telling you, once you find something like that kind of an action where they've taken money, you know, you're gone, the two are suing the other one, you're before the judge, they're scheduled, then you've got all the attorneys involved, and people are gonna be taking depositions, I mean, it could take years.
You said, so once the court's involved though, is there some type of a lock or protection on the?
Yes, once again, the two trustees that are the good actors, that's one thing they would request, that they now, you know, no one has access to anything now,
And that's almost automatic.
Mhm.
Very good.
Yeah,
You can
it's-
bill me for that.
Yeah, okay. Yes,
What is the difference
It's a
cost
solution.
wise in a trust or will? There is a difference in trust.
well, I can tell you what my firm charges, I don't know what everybody else charges. So when we do what's called a will package, so usually it's, because you should have all these documents, a will, a power of attorney, and your healthcare documents. If you're single, you know, we usually charge about $850. If you're married and we're doing two of everything, we usually charge $1,250. If we're doing a trust, which includes your trust, your will, your power of attorney, your healthcare documents, and getting all your assets retitled into your trust, we usually charge roughly around $5,500. So it costs a lot more to do a trust than a will, but there's a lot more you can do within a trust as well. So quite often we do trusts for people who say, well, you know, I want to make sure that when my children get their inheritance, that it's protected from, if they get into financial trouble, if they get divorced, you can set your trust up to protect your beneficiaries. So a trust does a lot more. It's just something that's a function of what you're comfortable with. So usually we discuss both with people, and then you decide what fits best with your goals.
Again.
Well, you got court costs and everything, the probate comes in.
Yeah.
So
How did it spend it all?
Yeah.
A number, now,
They do
who
it,
has
yeah.
balance in trust? Meaning, you're gonna know the information in trust.
Right.
The power, who would know power, immediately who knows that they're a power of attorney?
Well, so you set a trust up and you name somebody as a power of attorney. They only know that if you tell them.
Okay. Financial attorney's gonna know a lot of finances.
Right, so, you know, when you set a trust up, typically, you know, if it's a revocable trust and you're fine, and it's just you're the only trustee, really, no one knows anything unless you tell them.
Okay, well, that's my question. Your lawyer knows.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, and that lawyer, say, is 80 years old.
Right,
So you need to know that they're with a good firm that can pass that information on.
for sure. And usually when we do trust planning, we make sure that the family knows who we are. And if something happens to mom or dad, they call us.
By family, you mean?
So, okay, so let me step back a minute.
Say it's my mother or father.
Okay, so
They're responsible.
So mom and dad set up a trust. It's up to them how much they want to share with you at this point in time, children. So sometimes we have clients who they set a trust up and they want their children to know that they have a trust or what the trust says. Seeing a copy of the trust does not tell them what you own. Those are two different issues. So if you say, well, I want my kids to know who's gonna be in charge, and what the trust says, we can have a family meeting, you can have a family meeting, and that can be discussed. If you want them to know what you currently own, you can tell them that, but it does not in the trust what's owned. You have your own financial document that lists everything that you own, and we always have a copy of that. Children don't have that unless you give it to them.
Okay, now say that switches law firm groups, or makes a new trust up, is another firm. And it doesn't tell you. What I'm saying is.
How do you know?
If she passed away, and the children don't know.
Okay, so I would tell you, usually,
How would,
how would they find out?
yeah.
Okay, well, I would say, usually, if you got a copy of their current will or their current trust, it's gonna say somewhere on that document who prepared it.
Okay.
And that's where you start. Because people do change attorneys, they go somewhere else. So if you don't know where anything is, you got a copy, or you don't know, but you think you know where, you know, who they went to, you start there.
Okay. So. I don't know how that, I don't know. Say,
So I would tell you, if you set something up, you probably wanna tell your family either who you worked with, or here's where I keep my documents. I have a fireproof box in the basement, and my, or file cabinet, and I have my will, my power of attorney, all there.
okay.
And I would tell them that. You know, so once again, if they don't have a copy of your power of attorney, they can't use it because they don't have it. But so you might want somebody to know at least where it is. Healthcare power of attorney, I would do the same thing, maybe make sure that they have a copy of that, which is much safer, because really, they can't make decisions for you unless you can't make it yourself. But you wanna make sure if you're in a car accident and you're unconscious, you know, make sure your doctors have your power of attorney. The attorney always has it, we always have it, and make sure someone has that.
Whoever power of attorney is for health or finance, they have to know that, right?
They should know that they are, yes.
Just what are those circumstances? What are those circumstances?
Pardon me?
Okay. Well, I get in a car accident.
Yeah.
That's what you need to know, tell them, whoever accepted the power of attorney,
Mm-hmm,
tell them who they are, so they
yeah, mm-hmm.
say, I forgot.
Well, hopefully they know that you've got, believe me, they're in your house looking through your safe deposit box or something, they're gonna look for that document, or your file cabinet, they're gonna look for that.
And they know that, they would know that.
Then they would know that, exactly. Or if they don't have that, they know what attorney you work with. And we attorneys usually keep copies of everything.
I wanna talk about lawyers and trust.
Okay.
I'm sure you saw the movie My Carol.
No, but, okay.
Oh,
Oh, you know the one,
What was the movie?
My Carol.
Yeah,
It's
I
on
watched
Netflix.
that, you'll learn a lot.
Okay, I'm guessing this is something gone wrong?
Yeah, what-
Rosamund Pike.
You had a guardianship organization, you know what I'm talking about. You had the doctor of the nursing home, and the nursing home, and all of those,
What was it, what?
bad things happen.
It's a movie
Take her
called
house.
I Caroline.
It's really exciting.
I care
Makes
a
you think,
lot.
why you want to trust this type of will? She
Mhm.
probably only had a will. Because she went to court, said, I'm taking over the guardianship, she's not able, she was a 74-year-old lady,
Mm-hmm.
totally self-sufficient. They come in and made her sign something to the board from the state, and they took her to the nursing home, drugged her, sold her house.
And then the mom got,
And the guardianship was appointed by the court, convinced the judge that she was incapable, because they drugged her. So, it wasn't a bad law, but you know, you get to tell the story better, you know.
yeah, I guess it's like abuse on a
Like-
larger scale.
Yes, yes.
You know, where they've taken on X number of elders and created, you know, taken over like.
Well, there's bad apples everywhere, that's what I can say, that kind of thing, I mean, there's,
Does a trust protect, is that what you're
I
asking?
think trust her to protect her.
Trust will protect the
So
money.
that's why she had a
I
will.
would think in that kind of thing then.
yes, yes,
A simple will.
right,
It scared me when I saw that, do a trust instead of a will. Because
Right.
They had guardianship.
right.
And
Yes.
they
The
can't.
judge was-
It avoids a guardianship, it avoids all that stuff, cause but then you
Yeah.
put the people in charge and you want to be there.
And I think because the trustee will be an added protection,
Mm-hmm,
you know, for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I would say if anybody has assets that they really want to protect, probably trust is a
safer, it's
better
safer,
protection, than will. and POD,
Right.
for
Just-
sure.
This movie was scared the SHIT.
That was a scary movie.
I need to watch
I thought it was funny.
It was
It was funny,
It was pretty
but
funny.
it's also.
It's sad.
Yeah, bad, yeah,
It-
yeah.
It can
That little guy
happen.
took care
It
of
can happen.
It can happen. The reality is, it can happen, and that's why we are having this. Everything can happen. That
That's
is
the
the
exception,
problem.
most certainly.
Yeah.
Most things are fine, but that happens.
Yeah,
Well,
and
it had to be three
if you are
conclusions.
preemptive, you can prevent it from happening.
Right.
So that's where it goes, that movie portrays the extreme of what can
Yes,
happen.
yes.
But it's preventable, and I think trust is the best way to go, because you have another layer of protection in a
Right.
trustee.
Right.
Who will oversee, and that person in the movie, I mean, there it's an outside entity.
Right.
But it can be your kids, it can be your relatives, it can be anybody.
Right.
And be a 10 millimeter.
You had to have three conclusions, doctor and the.
Yes, and that's a whole system there that went haywire
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit. But it doesn't happen, on a regular basis,
Right.
thankfully. There are systems and systems to protect, but sometimes it can fail.
Earthquakes don't happen often either.
Well, let's put it that's why I think whatever you do when you're able to do it, health is permitting, think out,
Mhm.
discuss, see what your other friends are doing, and if you have any questions,
Right.
always come back, circle back, ask questions, doesn't hurt.
Right.
Where are you located?
Here in Medina, Washington Park, which is just east of Spring Grove Cemetery on 18, red brick building. My card is here. If you have any questions after I'm on here, I have my email address on there. Feel free to email me. Be glad to answer any.
I have, this lady, she's a lawyer.
Pardon me?
Did my will.
I did?
Her name is Nancy Zoller. You heard of her?
I don't know that person.
Very,
Sure.
very nice lady.
Very good. Okay.
Anybody else needs Marie's
everybody.
cards?
Feel free to come up again, like,
Yeah.
some information up here.
And the other thing is like, having, our information is helpful because we're all licensed, we are no hokey pokey here.
Yeah.
You're safer with people that have been screened by, the government.
Who's your partner?
Ashley Sorgen,
Do you want?
another attorney, much younger than me.
Did she go to Boston College?
No, she went to, she got a law degree in Ada, Northern, Ohio Northern. Mhm.
Boston Northern?
No, she's not from Boston.
No.
That college, no, she didn't go to school in Boston.
No, is it up in New England though?
No, it's in Ada, Ohio, where she went to law school.
She went to law school in Ada.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Wasn't the same one. I thought it was the same one.
Oh, no,
Our attorney's over there too.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, nothing like being proactive. And here on our brochure too, put out questions that you should ask if you're getting any help at home, any assistance. We do mostly non-medical, nothing medical, so it's like having a family member there. And it's flexible to your needs. You can get them once a month if you want it, maybe once every 2 months, but if you start and you know who's coming home to help you, that's more reassuring. If you ever get hospitalized, come home, you need temporary care, that's a possibility too. People usually think if you get home care, we have to do it every day for X number of hours. We really work around your budget. And if you have VA benefits, we work with VA benefits. If you have long-term care insurance, we work with that too. And there are some grants like Alzheimer's and other organizations, they have grants. Some cities have grants. So we can check out all that. But main thing is these questions, knowing that the caregivers are insured, bonded, screened, background checked. That's very important. So it's in your hands to be preemptive in any situation. You know, so please, that's why we do this information sessions here, is that so that you're equipped with, empowering yourself
Yes, yes.
more than anything else, you know. So, you'll want to introduce yourselves? Go ahead. Yeah.
My name is Carrie Jennerette, I'm in New Brunswick. Parkinson's for 18 years. Well, I had it before that, I didn't know what it was. It was very subtle. I'm still walking and talking, so.
That's very good, yeah. Steve?
Hi, I'm Steve, I live in Medina. I take care of most of everything I need to take
And
care of.
Steve's got an interesting last name. Steve
Mark.
Martin.
Nope,
Oh.
signatures.
Signature.
Yeah.
I was driving down the road the other day, and this lady calls me on the phone and asked me if I wanted to get a security system for my house and my car and stuff like that. I thought I got a shotgun. She goes, I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
That movie was really an eye-opener.
Watch out, I mean, different businesses, different scams out there, you know. I mean, people are calling a lot and sending messages,
Oh, yes.
phone messages about different businesses, you know, how you can get money back.
It's amazing what money will do, amazing what will do.
I know,
Yeah.
I know,
And they target, I think somehow,
right.
they get the demographics of places, and they are
Yes.
targeting, you know, 55 and older, so be aware.
I miss you. I miss you, but my aim is approved.
Yes.
Is your information is on, it's public.
Yes, it is. And that's the thing, I think unless you need to, don't reveal your social security.
Oh, for sure.
Numbers, even your driver's license numbers.
Right.
You know, those are two things you need to protect, bank accounts.
They can do anything now. They got your social security.
Yeah. Larry?
I'm Larry Hammond, I'm from Spencer. I got Parkinson's 3 years ago. That's it.
Ellen?
I'm his wife,
Okay. Scott is
Partner in
new.
crime.
Hi, I'm Scott Mattis. My mom, Norma Jean Mattis. Mom lives up the street at Brookdale. Hopefully we'll be bringing some friends next month. And
That'd be wonderful.
I'm really glad to be here. Marie, I may have a client for you.
Okay.
Very good, very good.
You
Thank
know,
you.
feel free to take this. We're trying to do 2 Parkinson support groups. One is here and the other one in the Life Care Center. I mean, if you want more of it, you know, and circulate it to anybody that needs this kind of support.
Oh,
You, sir?
Tom Watkins from Brunswick. And I probably had Parkinson's for a while, and diagnosed on August 14th, I think it was last year. But I think it was longer than that though. So I was just looking to see if anybody what they would do to combat Parkinson's. Like, I go to a boxing class, and I try Tai Chi. I was just wondering if anybody else does anything else like that.
well, we've been trying to get boxing to come to Medina for the longest of times. I'll be very honest, we're hoping one of these days, you know, the board is, quite active, but we've tried to see if anybody around this area can do dancing, you know, and Tai Chi. So we're still exploring. If you know anybody, it's a matter of them dedicating time, but I know the Cleveland Clinic has some exercise classes here. They're general, but anybody with
About that,
Parkinson's,
she said, well,
did they stop it now?
It's starting again in September, isn't
No,
it? The exercise class there?
one of the girls got injured, she broke her foot, and they don't have anyone to.
Oh.
her, and they're all physical therapists at the hospital, so they can't leave their post unless they've got enough people. So, they don't know when.
Well, all I would say is, if y'all can get proactive, and if you know somebody that can do it for us, we can get a grant approved from the Parkinson's Foundation.
Quit sitting around with the remote in your hand.
Anything,
So-
anybody you
On
know,
your ass.
just connect them with me and I'll work on the funding. Because we've been trying, it's just that the local people, there was a dance person and then for some reason she couldn't get enough students to train for Parkinson's. So that fizzled out, you know, but we're trying to spread the word around, who better than you guys? You know your needs, you know, you find somebody, please share their name with me and I'll take it to the foundation and get a grant approved.
And check with this person too.
Yeah, yeah. Even if they did once a week, you know, they could dedicate once a week. The county office is very generous, you know, and we will all make it happen. Murray's also on the board. If there is something, you know, we'll try to make it happen on this end, in terms of the location. And the funding, we'll try to make it come from the Parkinson's Foundation. It's just finding the people. John?
I'm John Brunswick, I like long walks on the beach. No, seriously.
Never heard that before.
Wrong
We don't wanna know that
It's original, very original.
Actually, I've been married 40 years, very happy. At the end of this month, we got 40th year. I got Parkinson's in 2019. My doctor found it, I think a little bit earlier because they did the DAT scan. So I've had it 6 years now. Maxed out on medications and so forth. They give me the baby infusion next. I do the boxing, I do the exercising, I do the life cycle every day. They say that exercise is the best thing to fight this thing with. Bounce a tennis ball along the sidewalks, different types of things to keep my brain going. And we deal with it. There's one guy in our boxing class says, the doctor said, the first thing to do is fight it. But we all know it's a hell of a fight. You know, here's the thing about Parkinson's. Everybody thinks it's just the shaking. Shit, that's the smallest part of it. It's the stiffness, the walking, it's
The speech.
I tell people sometimes it's like walking on a cruise ship or on an airplane, you know? But we just keep fighting, that's all you can do.
Okay, that's the spirit. And I think, one thing I would say though, for people that want to exercise from home, the Parkinson's Foundation, the site is there and I can send the link to you guys. They do some exercises and yoga online. If that's something that's helpful, I can send the link to you guys. I also send out the newsletter that comes from Cleveland, PEP newsletter, and they put all the newest things that are going on in the area. Check those out, you know. We have an annual symposium, and then there's the Cleveland Clinic Empowerment Symposium is coming up too. Yeah.
University has a lot too.
University has a lot, and, you know, so I'm hoping that maybe something will be, are you all okay with online stuff? If things are done online, how friendly is that for you guys? No? You want in person?
Yeah, the
Okay.
problem with online is I got Parkinson's when it was COVID hit. I was really isolated for a long time, so I watched 1,000 videos, things to do and terminology. But, so I had to see my neurologist online too. And the Parkinson's, I feel face to face, it's one dimensional.
Absolutely.
They don't see this going on, this, they don't see your eyes. It was just like, it was one dimensional. So she said, walk across the kitchen floor. It was having them one-on-one FaceTime. And I don't know about everybody else, but I'm a one-on-one person anyhow, so get the nonverbal expressions, your toe tapping, whatever, you don't see that, you know. Like
No, it's
shaking.
tough.
I'm
I'm just
sure
right
it
down
is.
the road myself.
I
ride
tried
a lot
to
of
go to
bicycles
these
on the road.
symposiums.
What's that?
I said, I ride a lot of bicycle on the road, I miss that.
Yes.
Skate, I skate about 5,000 miles a year.
You ride bike? Yeah, I got a life cycle.
Yeah, I got
Some
a
of it works very well.
TCRC too, electric assist.
I used to ride the 150 mile bike.
Yeah.
from
I got about 49,000 miles on one bicycle. alone.
So anyone has any questions for Marie before she leaves? And you have, you have the email, feel free to use that, hopefully this was helpful. And, you guys can sit and chat, if Marie has to
I gotta
get
go to the
back.
office.
So
Thank you, Marie.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'll have to get us that movie. It sounds interesting. I'll have to get us that movie. Let me turn this off.